everybody, welcome back inside the stash. We are returning once again to our all-Japanese Touring Car Championship Series. And in this video, we're going to take a look at the 1993 season. Now, there is not quite as much to deal with in this season, mainly because the brunt of the decals were done for last year. The brunt of the really wide spectrum of kits happened last year and next year in the 1994 season, as you will see in the video that comes after this one eventually. There are several out-of-production kits available. Again, I'm going to show you pictures of the boxes, meaning I found reasonably priced copies of them. Most of them, granted, with bad decals, but just to give you an idea of what was available at the time, and maybe you can find some way to save the decals if you were so inclined to go track one of these kits down, or something along those lines. There is one model kit that actually was produced for the 1993 JTCC season, not counting the Mooncraft Jack's Honda Civic, which was, by its literature, technically for the 92 season, but really taking the time to examine the decals versus the car liveries that, actually ran during the 1993 season. It appears that the livery on the car is actually the 1993 season livery, more than it is the 1992 season. But then, again, the 1992 season EG6 version of the Civic only ran for the last two races, so probably just plowed straight through on into the next season without any changes. So that leaves us with 1993 being the last year for the GTR being in the Touring Championship. 1994, we're going to see the Touring Championship go to FIA Class 2 rules, which is sedans. We're going to see the GTR, of course, depart for greener pastures in the AJTCC, the Japanese Grand Touring Car Championship. That will, of course, become Super GT, which continues on to this day. At 1993, we have 5 years of JTCC left. Really only 4, because to the 5th year, 1998, the last year, it is an all-Toyota series, and there are no kits or decals available for the 1998 season. So that one will just sort of get wrapped into the 1997 season video when we talk about the very last of the liveries that are available for basically the Honda Accords at that point. And so there were a grand total of, let me see here, 7 GTRs running in the 1993 season. The season had expanded to 9 races at this point, and we're going to get a couple more opportunities from Fujimi. Now, granted, I would not build the kit itself. I would just steal the decals and then put them onto the upcoming Evo Sport 2 kit that BMAX is going to release in April, just because you need that spoiler option, and that comes with that retooled, modified reissue. So let's take a look at what we have going on here, shall we? Sure. The kit is going to be the last GTR we talk about, so everything here is going to be pictures up front. So first up, you have Hasame Motorsports back with their number 1. They are, once again, sponsored by Jex. Now it is Unicia Jex, and this Unicia Jex livery really will continue right on through about 1996 onto the R33 Super GT car. This Fujimi kit is available. I also believe that Aoshima, they made a series of racing R32s. They're not actually really racing R32s. They're sort of an R32 with half a roll cage thrown into it. In this case, the Fujimi kits really are better in that sense. They're also not. They also don't have a really crappy motorized chassis underneath of them the way the Aoshima kits do. But this livery, you probably could put this livery together by taking the 1992 decals and then taking the decals that Frankie made for the Gear Race of Macau cars, either the 92 or the 93. I think 92 is probably the closest one in terms of the actual graphics being the closest match, and combine the two of them, the Studio 27 decals that are still available and the SK decals, which of course are available, and combine them into something that really pretty closely approximates the 1993 season car, rather than trying to use the decals from a kit that is 20 years old. they won the 4th race of the season, and then you go over to Team Tyson, which is back again with their GTR. A little bit different graphic scheme than the 92 car. The 92 car had a giant STP logo in the hood. This one is just the Tyson solenoid pump livery, so you can see very quickly how just one season can not dramatically change the livery. It's still a black car with a red back with the hash stripes through the rear quarter panel. But the sponsorships have changed rather dramatically in the sense that the STP livery is gone. So now you are looking at, a much more basic Tyson actual sponsorship. They finished first in the 2nd race of the season. Next up on the GTRs is the FET Motorcraft Racing team. Again, Fujimi with an out-of-production kit for them. It's kind of hard to tell from this angle because the car's coming at you, but the graphics are somewhat different. Again, on the 1993 car, they did not win any races during the year. Again, with this, I'm not looking at the podiums. I'm just looking for the winning cars. Object T comes back with their GTR with a completely different sponsorship this year. They are sponsored by BP and Zippo. And I'm going to show you the box art from the Fujimi kit. There are still quite readily available to right now on this as you're watching this Studio 27 replication decals for this. I believe they're designed for the Tamiya kit rather than the Fujimi kit, which may or may not really matter, when it comes down to it. But this car, with its banana yellow graphics basically, and its green BP, kind of a cool little the BP corporate colors as it were. You can see the kit decals don't really have a BP logo to them that's yellow. They just sort of flow through to the they're clear, so they're basically using the underlying color that you paint the car. Those guys won the 9th, the last race of the year, so that is also a podium car. Then you go to Team Impol, which of course is the Calsonic car. Here we're going to go back to Frankie and his compilation 4-year sheet for the Calsonic car. These guys won the 1st, 5th, 7th, and 8th race of the season, and they are your 1993 Japanese Touring Car Division 1 champions. They're also the overall champions of the entire touring series for that year. I know all of these Calsonic liveries probably look the same, except for, of course, the 1991 season when they got dumped over onto the number 1 car. But if you just compare them side by side, if you were to look at the instruction sheet side by side, you'll see that the Nissan logos, the Impol logos, the Bridgestone logos, they move around the car. They're not in the same place every year. So they are legitimately different. Decals, again, that livery sheet will build you all 4, but you have to pick one. I want to make sure that as we close that out, we'll make that clear that you can only really build 1 car per use of the decal sheet, right? So there's only like one set of big Calsonic liveries for the side and things like that. I don't want to make it seem like you buy that decal sheet, you get to build 4 cars out of it. No, one per use. Let's see. That'll take us to Nismo Racing. Now, Nismo Racing is the Kiyosaki car again. So that's, again, this decal sheet here. You basically are, let me see if I can get the white to show up here. You're taking these Nissan logos, which go on the back quarter panels and the hood, and you're replacing the back quarter panel ones with these Nismo logos. These very stylized 1990 Nismo logos you don't really see too much of these days, because the Nismo logos, of course, much more updated in the 2000 teens really. I think that logo probably goes back into the 1990s when the R34 came out. I'm trying to see if they've one of my other Nismo cars. The last time I think I see that Nismo logo being used is on an R33, so that lasted until the early 1990s. But from the perspective of the fact that that was 25 years ago, that logo hasn't been seen for a little while. So that is available. Of course, that decal sheet, of course, fits the Fujimi or the Tamiya kit, and that'll bring us to the last GTR, the last Nismo, or Nismo Racing, basically, but the last GTR for the year, and that is this Tamiya kit, the HKS Skyline, the number 87 car. This probably has one of the more colorful liveries that you will see on any of the cars that ran ever in JTCC. HKS, interestingly enough, would go over to Opels in 1994, race Opels for 2 years, 94 and 95 season. We do not, of course, have model kits of the Opals, but they pretty much use this same livery throughout that time. A little bit of variation, but the paint splatter continued. So there's a picture of the real car there, and this kit, as it was reissued or was issued in 1994, many years. Well, the year after, the year after this car ran, you can build just the factory stock car out of it too. This was like a multi-reissue. So you can build the race car out of it, you can build the regular R32 out of it. We've talked about it before, there really isn't really a whole heck of a lot of difference in here with these two, except that the racing car has a racing interior, the street car has a street car interior. So there's two interior tubs in here, I believe. At least I think there are. I'm pretty sure. There is the street interior tub in here, and the race car you build off of the actual floor, basically off the chassis pan. And you know, here's a look at what those decals look like. If you've ever wondered, they are pretty comprehensive in the sense that you paint the car black and then you just start layering on the decals for our Canadian and outside of the country friends who pronounce the word decal entirely wrong. So that car is out there, and they won the third race of the season. Going over to Division 2, there are two BMW M3s that Fujimi did that would be interesting to steal the decals out of, assuming you could find a set of decals that are functional, right? Because that's always the problem with these older kits. And they are the Autotech car, the number 35 car. At this point, in 1991, Autotech and Team Tyson, because they also ran a BMW, and Advan, they've all come down just to running one car per team. They're not running two team cars. So this car, the Autotech car, again, stealing the decals out of it will probably be the best option. I see a set of decals floating around from time to time that is just sort of scaled out. It has like the scale markers on the side of it. I think they're Japanese or Chinese reprints of this. They have both numbers on them, but from looking at them, I believe they have decals to do several years worth of these cars. I'd have to really sit down and look at them. I just happened to see them this morning when I was looking for other stuff. And so, you know, this set of decals usually isn't too terribly bad in terms of being usable, because really the only thing with really bright white to it are the Bridgestone logos, the BBS logos, and of course the number placards. And more than likely, you could steal those three things, especially the number placards, out of other sheets of decals. The 35s, those just blank placards where they don't have any kind of labeling around them, are certainly in the Studio 27 decals for the 1992 cars. They're in that reprint set of decals I see floating around. And I'm pretty sure if you chop the bottom of the JTCC logo off the bottom of the 95 or the 94 season 318 decals, they'd also be passable for that. But again, you saw with the image there, you have the large rear spoiler, which designates this as an Evo 2. At this point in 1993, the BMW M3 is sort of going away in Europe in terms of car being run. It runs in the 1993 DTM series to a certain extent, but 1994 is when, of course, DTM goes into a sedan-based car as well. Well, really 1993, 1994. Because during 1993, DTM kits that are out there, of course, the Alfa Romeo Tamiya kit, the Mercedes Tamiya kit. So 92 is kind of the last year these cars run in Europe, the coupe-based cars. So they got sent to Japan for the 93 season, and that was sort of their last hurrah. Actually, the last hurrah for the BMW M3s was the Australian touring car, because it ran after the Japanese touring car did season-wise, because, of course, it's summer in Australia when it's winter everywhere else, the Northern Hemisphere. So again, decals are out there. Shouldn't be too terribly hard. If you need the mirrors and the wheels, you could go through SK Decals, because they do. Frankie does sell those sort of flush-faced, no dish, if you will, BBS rims for the Group A cars, and those are also the Sport Cup mirrors, I think is what they're called right now. A friend of mine is spinning around in a circle because I'm calling the mirrors the wrong thing, but those mirrors are, you probably steal them out of this kit. I think the kit actually does have those mirrors in it, and there are a couple of other places you can get them. I'm pretty sure those mirrors are actually in the DTM kit. They're just not used for the DTM cars. I think they're still in there, which sort of gave you a hint as to what other kits that they were going to make out of it. And then the other M3, I should mention that that car, the Autotech car, won the first, second, third, fourth, and seventh races in its class and is the Division 2 champion for the 1993 season. The other kit that's out there for the 1993 season is this, the Team Overtake number 61. Now, these guys actually did run team cars, but I don't know if the 62 decals are in here, mainly because the number 62 car used a number of Chinese, actually Hong Kong-based drivers, really. Charles Kwan, who's a very famous race driver out of the Gi race in Macau, to run their cars. The number 61 car ran the same drivers for the entire season, so obviously that was the easier one to make. You don't have to go out and make a whole bunch of people for the decals. This decal sheet that is in this particular kit that I saw is pretty bad. As you might imagine, there's quite a bit of white in this decal sheet. You could probably get away with painting the black areas, the larger black areas, paint-wise, rather than using the actual kit supply decals. But all those pinstripes and trying to get the Chinese characters out of, or the Japanese rather, characters out of the black would probably be more trouble than it's worth. And of course, that would be the problem with this, would be that all those Japanese characters are integrated into the black parts of the decal. It is quite possible, although they look like they're somewhat smaller in the 1994 car, to steal some of those out of there. Also, the 1994 car doesn't have a black front edge of the hood, it's a black rear edge of the hood, so those I keep calling them Chinese. Those Japanese characters on the front of the hood in the 94 car are white. Or black, excuse me. So, again, steal the decals. Best bet there. You certainly don't want to build that kit. Just no, you don't. But getting that kit and finding one with actual decent decals may be a bigger problem than it's worth, depending on how you look at it. And they won their class race in the 8th race of the season. And that brings us to Division 2. Now, Division 2 really only has one kit out there. It's this, of course, the Mooncraft Team Jack's car. This is your Division 3 champion for the 1992 season, or 1993 season, excuse me, wow, I've lost my mind. The 93 season. So that's probably why they made this car specifically, because if you start looking at the other EG6 Civics that Hasegawa has made, there's one for the British Touring, I think it's the British Touring Championship. It's not the British Touring car, but it is like a national British Touring Championship type thing. I think it was called like the British National Touring or something. It's not BTCC in its format. It was a lower British touring class. And then there are 3 or 4 kits that they made with Group N, which is the very basic factory stock touring series that exists still to this day. It's Super Takio. Those other kits exist. They didn't make any other JTCC season liveries except this one. And so it is what it is. Nothing else you can do with it. There are several other EG6 Civics that ran in 1992 and 1993. Be, great if we get some more liveries out of Hasegawa. I mean, they did take the step and make a new livery for the Farios, so who knows what we will see. But so this kit, like I said, is your Division 3 champion for the 1993 season. It won its class in the 2nd, 4th, and 9th races of the year. So, I'm trying to think. There really isn't. There's a couple 3 different times where you could build all 3 championship cars, because you got the Calsonic car, that Autotech BMW, which is really the easier of the 2 BMWs to make, with the decals that are just floating around out there, and then this. So you can this is the one season where you really can make all 3 of the division champions for the season, and I think it's the only season that you actually can do that, because the Division 2 cars, which were mostly BMW M3s. The decals don't exist to do them otherwise. So that, guys, wraps up the 1993 season. Few things, and again, it's the one season where with a little due diligence, you can build all 3 of the championship cars for the season. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found it informative, and we'll see you guys on the other side.